Good morning, Tom. How are you doing?
Hi, Arrow. It's great to be with you.
Dude, I've been waiting to talk with you because Colonel Oliver North once sat down with me and said, you are not a real broadcaster unless you tell the story of those who have sacrificed their life for this nation. So getting this opportunity to share a conversation with you is part of that journey that Oliver put me on.
Well, that's great to hear. And I actually had the honor of writing a book for Oliver North's publishing imprint called Fidelis Publishing. It's called Be Bold. Wow. About a fallen Marine named Major Megan McClung. So I appreciate his words as well, and I'm glad they inspired you.
What drew you to this story? Because this is one that it's not on the front page of the newspaper. They're not even talking about it on ABC News. How did you find this?
Well, I connected with the family of Staff Sgt. Michael Ollis actually almost 10 years ago. And, you know, I'd written an article about this young American hero and kept in touch with the family over the years. And I always thought that, you know, as I wrote other books or whatnot, I said, there's more to this story than just, you know, a 1,000-word article. We have to do more because what he did was so unique in making the ultimate sacrifice to save the life of a foreign soldier, which is very uncommon in this post 9/11 era. So I wanted to get the story out there and hopefully inspire not only this generation, but future generations that are going to be tasked with protecting our country when we're in danger.
Oh, my God. That is every bit the reason why I try to get people to write and or do a podcast, because if we don't preserve this history, tomorrow doesn't have a story. They're just going to make it up.
Yeah, we can't let these stories just die. We have to continue to talk like we did on D-Day about these veterans, these fallen heroes who came before us and gave us the freedom that we now enjoy. And, you know, they don't do it for notoriety. They don't do it for fame or clicks or anything of that nature. It's because they genuinely want to keep not only us, but the man or woman serving beside them safe. And we just owe them so much gratitude and respect, as I know you agree with.
Well, you know what? You speak a very true story there in the way that they don't feel that they're heroes. And when I see them and I thank them personally one-on-one, they go, you don't have to do that. And I go, I have to do that because I didn't do that. And I'm here today because you sacrificed your life. But you're right. To them, it's a job. They did their job.
Yeah, and I do the same thing as you. I'm a civilian myself. I haven't had the honor of serving in the military. And I always say thank you, even if they say, oh, that's okay. You don't have to say anything. I want to. And I think all Americans should want to. And not just the soldiers and service members and veterans, but their families as well. Their military families shoulder an incredible burden for our country. And if you read I Have Your Back, you'll see what the Ollis family has gone through, you know, not only after Michael was killed in action, but beforehand. It puts a tremendous strain on a family when a service member is deployed, whether in combat or on a different type of mission. So it's something that I think if we think about more in our daily lives, it'll remind us that we're all Americans and we're all in this thing together.
Wow. Sergeant Ollis was ordered to retreat. He didn't do that. And to me, this is the true definition of fight or flight, or as Salvation Church, he walked into the fire, not away from the fire.
He did. But the first thing he did was make sure that his men were safe. And actually, one of those soldiers who I was lucky enough to speak with tried to convince him not to go back out because a 3,000-pound bomb had exploded. There was a mushroom cloud in the air. There was chaos. There was terrorists streaming onto the coalition base disguised as Afghan soldiers. And Mike barely had one clip of ammunition. He had no body armor, but he just wanted to go out there and save lives. And that's exactly what he did when he encountered that wounded Polish soldier.
How did his family react when the country of Poland honored him?
I think they were at first very surprised and they were numb. It took them actually quite a while to get the full story of what happened. It was there was an event held at the Polish consulate when they finally got to meet this soldier whose life had been saved. And on the other flip the coin, he was incredibly nervous to meet the Ollis family, because, here he is, alive and going home to Poland eventually. And what is he going to say to these Gold Star parents and sisters? And what's really special is they've welcomed him into their family.
Aww.
And when the Polish soldier and his wife later welcomed a son, of course, they named him Michael. And what an honor. I think more than any award or medal, that means the most to Michael's Gold Star parents, Bob and Linda Ollis.
Now, Tom, I'm a true believer in the transferring and the transition of energy. I totally believe that Sergeant Ollis is somewhere inside that soldier, that other soldier, because, I just truly believe that the energy moves to the next generation.
Yeah, and again, when he had a son, naming him Michael, and that little boy in Poland is going to grow up knowing about the soldier from the United States who was willing to lay his life down so his dad could, come back to Poland and raise him. So it's just an incredible bond, not just between, American soldiers, but other soldiers from other country, our allies. And that goes all the way back to World War II and beyond, and it endures to this day.
Wow. You touched me in a huge way, only because my brother was named after my mother's two brothers who were killed in the Korean War. And I guarantee you the generations after us don't know that Teddy Ray was actually those two brothers that my mother honored. There's got to be so many stories like this, Tom.
Wow. Yeah, that's incredible. And it really is amazing how, you mentioned the Korean War. You can go through any conflict and just find these unbelievable stories. One thing that I did early on when I was first writing about the military, I just went out to Arlington National Cemetery one day and walked through Section 60, where so many of our heroes from the post 9/11 conflicts are buried. And I just read their names and went home and read more about them. And I wound up getting in touch with several of their families, and some became articles, a couple even became books. So it's really not that difficult if you really want to know more about these people who for generations have protected our country, go to your local cemetery or go to a veterans event, in your community or at the local VFW hall or whatever it might be. The stories are out there and they're incredible. They'll change your life.
Oh my God. And the headstones say it. All you have to do is look at the headstone, take some notes, and go dig it up.
Yeah, absolutely. That book I previously mentioned called Be Bold, on Major Megan McClung's headstone at Arlington, it says, "Be bold, be brief, be gone." And had I not seen that, I never would have known her story and never would have gotten to write a book about Major McClung. So, again, the stories are there. And I hope more Americans will take the time, especially, as we're in the middle of a lot of military holidays, of course, with July 4th coming up as well. I think that's what patriotism is all about, is showing appreciation to the men and women who gave us our freedom.
September 11th, 2001 changed so many of us, but the majority of us have forgotten about that day. I'm a daily writer. I know exactly what was going through my mind and what we experienced afterwards. But to hear this story about Sergeant Michael blows me away, because I'm an artist because of that, because I wanted my community to have some sort of protection. And to this day, that's exactly what I do, not as a military man, but as a martial artist. So I love this about Sergeant Michael.
Yeah, he was in middle school when his city and our country were attacked. You can imagine the impact that would have on a child. He was a teenager, but barely. And 4 or 5 years later, as soon as he got the opportunity, he had to get his parents' permission to join the Army because he was only 17. Yeah. And that's what he wanted to do, because he didn't want to ever see his city attacked again. He didn't want to see our country attacked again. And his entire adult life, as tragically short as it was, that's what he spent his time doing.
What was his relationship like with his father? Because, he also served our nation as well. And it was in Vietnam, which to me is the quiet war, because they don't want to talk about it. They don't want to talk about what life was like when they came home. But to the family, what happened?
Yeah, the bond between Michael and his father, and we have, we're talking about Father's Day, obviously. It was incredible and very unique, because it's not just father and son, but it's soldier to soldier.
Yeah.
You mentioned Bob Ollis. He was a hero in Vietnam. He was wounded himself while trying to save the life of another soldier. And when Bob received his Bronze Star almost 30 years after the conflict, Michael happened to be back from Iraq and got to pin the Bronze Star on his father's chest. And, something that Bob told me as we were working on the book, he said, Michael always made me feel special for serving in Vietnam, and he had never felt that way before. And then once Michael started deploying and he would come home, they would talk to each other and share different stories and help each other cope with the horrible things that they had seen in Vietnam, Iraq, and Afghanistan that, so many veterans struggle with on a daily basis, and they helped each other. And I thought that was really, really special and powerful. And again, it just, Father's Day and the bond between this father and son, I think is something that'll touch a lot of people.
I've been blessed with the opportunity to make a connection with so many Americans that are currently in Ukraine. I want this book in their hands because they are sacrificing their lives as well. And they need to know about the people before them who also did exactly what Sergeant Ollis did.
Yeah, absolutely. And, again, what's going on in Ukraine is just terrible and has, massive implications for the world and, of course, Europe and also our country. And I think what winds up happening there is going to shape, many, many decades to come for the direction that this world is going. So I think it's important that, just as Michael did in laying his life down for a Polish soldier, that America always has the backs of its allies.
Yes. Yeah. How did you come up with the title? Was it a struggle only because you know how it is in this everyday world? I got your back. You hear it from people all the time. They're not living what you're putting inside these pages.
Well, what I thought was so special about it was the Polish soldier, they didn't speak the same language. Right. There was a language barrier. So when they encountered each other, it was really more of a look than the spoken word. But the Polish soldier said when they locked eyes, what he took that to mean from Michael was, I have your back.
Wow.
And then Michael did it. He actually did have his back, and he gave his own life in demonstrating that. But, but on a wider scale, that's what the men and women of our military do for us, right? They have our backs. Even though we've never met many of them and they've never met us, they're willing to go out there, and if our nation is in danger or one of our allies are in danger, they're willing to risk everything and be separated from their families for months and even years at a time to keep us safe. So I think I Have Your Back is the appropriate title, not just for this book, but for this generation of warriors that to this very moment we're speaking is putting everything on the line to keep us safe.
In a very creative way, Tom, don't you think that you have been called, just like our U.S. soldiers, to tell the stories of these men and women? Because if they're lost in history, that means they're lost. But you're not allowing that to happen.
Well, I'm trying my best. I feel that it's my duty if, I can help get a fallen hero or a veteran story out there. And if the family is willing to trust me, and I'm so deeply appreciative to the Ollis family and all the other families I've worked with for placing that trust in me. And, but the difference between me and somebody who serves in the military is I'm not risking my life to do this. I want to do it to show the selflessness and the courage that they bring to the table on a daily basis. So it's just an honor and a privilege to have the opportunity to meet and speak with so many incredible people.
Gaining that trust. Oh my God, readers and listeners don't understand what we have to go through in order to get a conversation even started. There's a woman that has served our nation that I see once or twice a week. And every week I say, I got to do your story. Why do you want to talk to me? Why? Do you bump into that same exact wall?
I think every story is different, and I always try to, when I first have a conversation with a Gold Star family or a wounded veteran, I never bring any preconceived notions to the table. Mm-hmm. Just because one person reacted one way to a traumatic experience, like losing a loved one in war, doesn't mean another person's going to feel the same way. And of course, as whether it's I've spoken to Gold Star family members only days after they've lost their loved one in Iraq or Afghanistan. And I've also talked to them 10, 15 years later. So every story is different, and everyone, deals with war differently. And as a civilian, it's been really amazing for me to see that firsthand as I meet and speak with these incredible Americans who've sacrificed so much for our country.
The way you even got to be with the Ollis family, Bob Ollis, because my father never talked about his days in World War II, and we talked about my mother's story. They were silent parents. They just really didn't want to talk about anything like that. So for you to even be able to take that step, or that you're sacrificing yourself in order to get this story.
Well, and Bob Ollis really never talked about Vietnam with anyone. When he said the other night when we were at an event that, the only time he talked about Vietnam to Michael was, telling the funny stories, the lighthearted stories with him and his battle buddies on the base, just, goofing off type thing. But it was when Michael himself became a soldier and started deploying that Bob realized that the wisdom and the experience that he had gained in Vietnam could help his son, and then his son wound up helping him as well.
Wow.
Deal with some of the demons from that horrible war. So it's very special to get a window into the lives of these heroes, and it's something that I value deeply, and I hope when people read I Have Your Back that comes across.
Were you blessed with the opportunity to read any one of their journals? Did they keep journals?
Yes, many are in the book, actually, and even letters that he wrote to deployed soldiers when he was a kid growing up, and letters he received from classrooms, back in his hometown, telling him to stay safe, just as he used to write letters when he was a kid, and even letters from, friends and girlfriends and emails. And the Ollis family gave me so much material to work with, and then of course connected me with his friends and family. So, I think it's really important, if you're going to, write a book about somebody's life, that you do everything you possibly can to learn, who that person was, the real person. And again, I hope that comes across in the book.
Oh my God, that's every bit the reason why you've got to get the physical book, because I'm one of those people, when I'm reading somebody's physical words, I got to touch them. I mean, it's not about just reading them. I've got to physically touch those words because they're still alive today.
Well, it's, I agree. It's something that, when I'm hoping that when people are finished reading I Have Your Back, they'll feel like I feel, which is like I knew this young hero. And that's really what it's all about. No sugarcoating anything. It's about what these men and women go through on the battlefield, off the battlefield, and why we should respect our military community so much. And that's why I wanted to write the book. From
one writer to another writer, and we both know the energy comes from the outside source. Have you found a moment to be grateful and mindful of the Ollis family sharing this story?
Oh, every moment of every day. And, I was just with them a couple nights ago, and, seeing the community come out, and old friends and family and fellow soldiers. There's about 90 soldiers from Fort Drum that they're going to be seeing in the next few days at various events. And it's almost like a celebration now of Michael's life. They've been through so much pain and hardship, but, I'm hoping that now that this book is out there, that, everyone can just celebrate the fact that they got to live among, a real life American hero, and that this story hopefully will be passed down to future generations and inspire a whole new group of heroes in the future.
Where can people go to find out more about you and show you a tremendous amount of love, sir?
Oh, thank you. Well, I'm on Facebook and Twitter under my name, Tom Sileo. But also you can go to stream.org. I write a weekly column there about the sacrifices of our military community, and also post, various military photos that I think are inspiring. So stream.org, if anyone would like to check it out, I appreciate it.
God, I love where your heart is. You got to come back to this show anytime in the future, Tom.
I would love to, Arrow. It's been really great being with you.
Well, you be brilliant today, okay?
You too. Thanks a lot.